All right. Dakorien Moore did not choose the Texas Longhorns. He is, in fact, headed to Oregon, and me and Lacey Butler are kind of upset about it.
Said that. You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Longhorns, the show. Jonathan and Lacey, your hosts. Today's episode of Locked On Longhorns is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Remember, terms apply. In the first segment, our initial thoughts on Dakorien Moore heading to Oregon, not Texas. In the second segment, what this means for the Texas Longhorns. In the third segment, with the Olympics coming up, we give you a list of our forever Longhorns that will be competing in Paris. All of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we get into today's subject matter, Lacey, you also host a podcast, Laced Up, the podcast. Also do live shows every Monday on YouTube. So tell our Locked On Longhorns listeners a little bit of what you've had going on recently on the pod.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you that don't know, I'm over on Laced Up every single Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm over there with my co-host, Coach Charlie Williams. He is a recruiting analyst over at Inside Texas. So we get to just go hang out on Monday nights, talk ball, talk all things Texas athletics, and just kind of hang out and have a good time. We love bringing on different families and stuff for interviews. We've had interviews with Texas commit Elijah Bo Barnes. We've had 2026 top prospect on the show, John Turntine and his family. So we get a lot of really cool interviews over there. We love hanging out, chilling, talking to different families, and just seeing how the recruiting vibe is going on the 40 acres. So make sure you guys come and hang out with us every Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're live on YouTube and on Twitter every single Monday. So we have a really good time. I really hope y'all come and join us.
For sure. And I'll definitely make sure I'm tuned in to Laced Up Live on Monday nights, and hopefully all of our listeners are as well. You know, you're going to talk about Dakorien Moore to Oregon. You know, I think this is a blow for Texas, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the second segment. But obviously, Dakorien Moore, one of the best players in this class, you know, the best receiver in the country, and one of the best players in the state of Texas. My initial thoughts were, you know, always happy for the kid, for sure. You know, I know you can be a little salty as a Texas fan, and say, oh, he's not coming here, we didn't need him anyway, or
and we are, like we are right, a salty bunch.
Yeah, definitely saw some some people changing their tune quick on Twitter, but you just want to be happy for the kid. I think sometimes we can take for granted the amount of work it takes to put yourself in a position like this. Like when you look at his top four, I believe, were LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, right? The fact that you could go to any of those four schools for free, right? Yeah. Just based on your athletic ability is insane to me, right? And so he's put himself in that position to be able to choose between four of the best schools in the country, bar none, to go play football at. So just happy for him and happy for his family that he's realized this lifelong dream. And I think Oregon has a very bright future, right? Obviously, any four of those schools he picked would have been great choices. Oregon is a really good school. Biased, I think Texas would have been the best choice, but, Oregon has a bright future. When you look at it, they're in the Big Ten now, so they're going to be playing a more competitive brand of football. When you look at what they're bringing into that conference, I mean, obviously Michigan is the class because they've just won the Big Ten 3 years in a row and the national championship, but Ohio State is coming this year. If USC and Lincoln Riley can figure it out, they're coming, right? I don't think Washington is just going to fall off the face of the earth, but there's a chance that Oregon could be the face of the Big Ten moving forward, or at least the best team in the Big Ten moving forward. Dan Lanning has done an amazing job with that program. Only lost 2 games last year, both to Washington. Definitely could have been in the playoffs. And when you look at it, what they have moving forward, you got Dylan Gabriel, a talent on that football team, and a team that definitely could win the Big Ten this year. And with players like Dakorien Moore moving forward, that's going to be a lot easier to do. Also, I think Oregon has unique advantages with Nike, right? A lot of the times when players choose other schools, you say, okay, well, Texas could provide everything that this other school could provide, right? So why did they make the choice to go to an Ohio State or Alabama, whatever? Texas cannot provide everything that Oregon can provide, right? So we need to be realistic about that. Texas wears 2 jerseys. That's it. They wear 2 jerseys. Dakorien Moore might never wear the same jersey combination his entire career at the University of Oregon, right? Nike has, in some form or fashion, reached out to him or given him the opportunity to be the face of NIL in college football, to be the face of Nike and being represented. Texas cannot offer that. Texas cannot guarantee Nike sponsorship or Nike opportunity. You know, talk about women's basketball. Look at Sabrina Ionescu. She went to Oregon and within 2 years in the league had a signature shoe, has one of the most popular basketball shoes in the world. That comes from going to Oregon, right? So that's what Oregon can offer that the University of Texas cannot, right? So I want to give it to Lacey, let her give her initial thoughts. I'll have a lot more on the Texas angle in the second segment, but this is a big loss for the program. Obviously, like I said, there's advantages that Oregon can offer, so you have to take it with a grain of salt because, you know, Texas can't offer everything that they can, especially on the Nike side. But when you look at it, the best corner in the country resides in the state of Texas, and it feels like Texas never had a chance with them. And the best receiver in the country resides in the state of Texas, and he told the University of Texas no twice. Right, to me, that's a big deal, and we'll discuss that more in the next segment. But Lacey, what are your initial thoughts on Dakorien Moore choosing Oregon over the Longhorns?
Pain. Big pain. It's never a good feeling, you know, losing a top guy in the state. Those are the guys that you can't let those guys leave the state, you know, and like you just said, Dakorien left not once, but twice. So, I mean, I think at this point, you know, we have a lot of fans and everything, because we've talked about the fan base and how we've reacted. You know, I know I've had to head onto social media and kind of check our fan base a little bit to try to be like, hey guys, like, sometimes I know it's crazy to us, but sometimes kids just want to go somewhere else. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And we can sit and say, oh, it's about NIL. Oh, it's about all of the uniforms. It's all about the flash and it might be. It might be about all of those things. But at the end of the day, sometimes it just is what it is. And sometimes it goes back to what you were saying about there are things that Oregon can offer that we can't. We are a very traditional uniform type. Like, we stick to our guns. We're very, very traditional in the uniform aspect and everything. I've been begging for years for an alternate. For years. I just want one. Just one. Just one dope alternate. Don't get me wrong. I love our uniforms. I think we have some of the best uniforms in the entire nation. But
you know, you're pissing off a certain section of our fans. You know,
I'm aware. I'm aware.
They wear burnt orange and white, even though kids like Dakorien Moore, you know, want to look flashy and, you know, look cool. But, you know, you're pissing off a certain section of our fan base. But I agree with you. Definitely.
Oh, for sure. Well, and the thing is and I think you have to realize that times change. You know, people change. The thought process of kids change. And college football is an ever-changing sport. It has been changing for the past 80 million years. It'll constantly change. Realignment is happening. You're having so many different schools go to screw regional alignment. Like, we're not even talking about regional anymore. You got USC and UCLA traveling to the Midwest. You know, you've got Texas going to Georgia and Alabama and everything like that. So that makes a little more sense. But, you know, it just goes back to everything that you were saying about some kids just want the flash. Some kids just want that extra oomph, that superstar shine. And you know what? Dakorien Moore is a superstar. So what more can you really expect? Because at the end of the day, you know, all the fans that are sitting here calling NIL or, oh, Oregon's been dropping money bags. Yeah, they have.
Right.
What are we supposed to say to that?
This is the same school, the University of Texas, that got Peyton Kirkland to commit when we weren't even in his top 5, and he had never visited the University of Texas, right? So obviously that's an NIL decision. So every school is throwing bags. That's just the culture now, you know what I mean? And I feel it's a little disingenuous. I feel it's kind of disrespectful, right? When a kid commits to, you know, say that that's all him and his family are about. He could have went to any school and got a bunch of money, but I don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, right? This is
for sure.
You know, for sure. Like,
for sure.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, like I said, he necessarily couldn't have gone wrong with any of those 4 decisions. If you tell me I can go to Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, or LSU for free based on my football skills, like, any one of those would have been a good decision. And, you know, hopefully he made the right one with Oregon. But, you know, like I said, I think Oregon has a bright future. You know, he chose Dante Moore over Arch Manning, but I do think Dante Moore is going to be a really good quarterback. You know, certain sites had him over Arch Manning in the 2023 class. So, I think, I speak for Lacey when we say that, obviously we're disappointed he didn't end up at Texas, but our initial thoughts are that we're very excited for him, a Texas kid. I always root for him, and he's going to be one of the best players in college football, regardless of where he ended up. A quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get into, the glass half empty perspective, what this means for Texas and how big of a loss this was truly for the Longhorns. Today's episode of Locked On Longhorns is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. All right, so we talked about the Oregon angle. We spent, 10 to 11 minutes talking about how good Dakorien Moore was, how good Oregon was, and how bright of a future he's going to have in Eugene. But I think now it's time to talk about what this means for the University of Texas. And it hasn't been a banner week period for recruiting, and then obviously Dakorien Moore was kind of the slap in the face, the one that knocked you to the ground. But, what are your thoughts on what this means for Texas just as a whole? Obviously, it's Steve Sarkisian, the quarterbacks we've recruited. We'll be able to get good receivers on the 40 acres. But like you talked about, this is a different breed. You're talking about number one wide receiver in the country, top 5, overall player in the country. What does this loss mean for the University of Texas?
It means a lot, honestly, because, we had Colin Simmons last cycle that was a must-get guy, and a lot of people saw Dakorien Moore as that must-get guy in this class. So, being in the fold for guys like Lockett or for guys like Khalil Lockett and Jamie French are obviously really good. Like, that's obviously a good thing for us to still be in contention for those guys. But also, like, we were kind of banking on having Dakorien in this class, ever since he committed to LSU. Texas fans have always been like, oh no, he's going to end up in Austin. Like, it's just been one of those well-known, like, the worst kept secret that Dakorien was just going to end up in Austin. And I don't know if it's, I don't know if it was an arrogance on the fan base's part where we just didn't want to see what was going on. But I just think that as hard as it is to lose an in-state 5-star superstar talent like Dakorien Moore, I don't think the receiver room, along with the quarterback room, running back room, those are specific position groups that I don't worry about under Steve Sarkisian. You still have Ryan Wingo. There are guys that, because a lot of people don't understand, we're talking about the 2025 class. We still have guys that are waiting in the wings. Sark has not been a scrub on the recruiting trail the past few years when it comes to the receiver position. So as much as this sucks, as much as it's not a great thing in the grand scheme of things, I think it just goes to show that Sark goes international. Sark goes national. Sark goes national whenever he's focusing on his recruiting. He doesn't just stick to Texas. He doesn't just he understands the talent pool and everything that Texas provides, but he's not scared to go into the state of Florida. He's not scared to go into in the state of California. He's not scared to go and infiltrate these different parts of the country where he knows he can get talented guys. Ryan Wingo out of Missouri.
I think the thing for Texas is, I think this is a big loss, and I don't think you can understate how big of a loss it is. I know Texas fans listening to this don't want to hear that, it's the end of the world or the sky is falling. And it's not necessarily, like Lacey talked about, you're still in on 2 5-stars that you can hopefully bring over to campus. You have the transfer portal, which, kind of mitigates these losses in high school recruiting. moving forward. Because if you lose a player, you can go get a type of player like Adonai Mitchell or Isaiah Bond, right? If you don't recruit the way that you want to out of high school. But these are still big losses, right? And this is what we dealt with for the better part of a decade at the University of Texas, where we had to watch the best players in our state go perform elsewhere. Right. And like I said, the best corner in the state, that's a position of need and a premium position, is going to Ohio State. And it felt like Texas never had a chance. And, once again, I'm going to say it again, but Dakorien Moore told us no twice. To me, there's been a can't miss prospect in every cycle since Steve Sarkisian fully took over. With 2022, it's kind of hindsight 2020. But imagine if Kelvin Banks did end up at Oregon and didn't, decommit and come to the University of Texas. Imagine if we had to watch a franchise left tackle perform at Oregon that we should have had at Texas. Then 2023, right? Anthony Hill commits to Texas A&M. We know we need him in a Texas jersey. We know linebacker is a position of need. We had to do a full court press to get Anthony Hill, and obviously it worked out in his true freshman season. I thought in the 2024 class, it was Micah Hudson and Colin Simmons, those two Texas guys that you needed to get on either side of the ball. You got Colin Simmons. You obviously didn't get Micah Hudson, but you were able to get Ryan Wingo, right? So it's like, okay, you were able to mitigate that loss with another 5-star receiver. And who knows, Ryan Wingo may end up being better than Micah Hudson. And, we might not missing, Micah Hudson at all. But this year, I think it was Dakorien Moore. And this is the first time that we've missed on that can't miss prospect, or didn't have, at least right now, a contingency plan for missing on Dakorien Moore. So I think that's a big deal. We talk about the advantages that Oregon had, but Texas had some unique advantages as well. I got to put my phone on the screen because I got to read.
No, it's true.
My notes, but Texas had unique advantages as well, right? We can't just say, well, Oregon had Nike or Oregon had money. That's why Dakorien Moore went. These are the advantages that Texas had, and they weren't enough, right? Texas has robust NIL as well, right? Texas can match any NIL package in the country, and I'm more than certain they were willing to match it for Dakorien Moore, but it just wasn't enough. Texas has Arch Manning. Like I said, I think Dante Moore is all world. I remember in the All-Star game that Anthony Hill performed in, I can't remember which one it was, but Dante Moore was the MVP. He had 4 touchdown passes in that game. A lot of people had, I want to say a lot of people, some people had Dante Moore above Arch Manning in the rankings coming into their true freshman season. But at the end of the day, playing with Dante Moore, catching passes from Dante Moore doesn't have the allure, doesn't have the mystique, doesn't have the aura that catching passes from Arch Manning does. If I'm a receiver in this time frame of college, I want to go catch passes from Arch Manning. You have a built-in recruiting advantage with Arch Manning being your next starting quarterback at the University of Texas, and Dakorien Moore chose Dante Moore over that. That's a loss for Texas. You have a head coach / offensive coordinator in Steve Sarkisian, who has helped 7 receivers get drafted in the first or second round since 2020. We're talking about Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, John Mechie, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. I didn't think I could name all 7, but I just did. Right?
Love that. That was good. That was good. Right. I was wondering if you were going to get through it.
Right. The first and second round picks, right? One of them won the Heisman, right? That's what your head coach and offensive coordinator was able to produce. Dakorien Moore turned that down. In-state school. Right? The University of Texas, he's at Duncanville. Texas should be your number one choice as a Texas kid. Once again, he's moving out of state, chose other schools twice. We're moving to the SEC with teammates he won championships with at Duncanville and Alex January and Colin Simmons. Multiple championships with his entire family, 11 of them on the official visit alone, begging him to go to the University of Texas. And he still decided on the University of Oregon. So Texas had a lot of built-in advantages in this recruitment, and it just simply wasn't enough. So, at this point, you can pivot, like you said, to Lockett or French, but at this point, you're not sure if you'll get either one of them, let alone both. And, Texas may ultimately be fine. The 2023 and 2024 classes were loaded. And like I said, you can always dip into, the transfer portal. They're going to be players that decommit. They're going to be players that are unhappy. And Texas, will be there as that safety blanket for those kids, right? So, I think we'll be good moving forward for sure. Like you said, offensively, especially at wide receiver and quarterback, those are positions you don't want to worry about too much under Steve Sarkisian. But once again, I'm just tired of the best players in the state of Texas deciding they want to play somewhere else other than the state of Texas. Right? For sure. Quick word from our sponsors, and then we get into our Olympians, right? We have some forever Longhorns, making a name for themselves in Paris this summer. Well, they've already made a name for themselves, but continuing to make a name for themselves. And Lacey will definitely be able to highlight all of those Olympians and who we should be watching for this summer. Today's episode of Locked On Longhorns also brought to you by Gametime. Right, Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, every major sport, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, kickoff, tip-off, whatever. Right, priority last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Flash deals save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. All in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, and the lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, Lacey. So I'm going to be honest. I am a very casual fan when it comes to the Olympics, right? I'm tuning into the men's basketball team. I'm tuning into the women's basketball team. And let me be honest, I haven't tuned into the women's basketball team before, but I will be watching this year. But that's like the extent of my Olympic viewing experience. Of course, I was watching back in the day when, Michael Phelps was doing his thing. I was watching back in the day to see Usain Bolt mostly, but track. But, I was like a casual. It took like some huge superstars for me to get into it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Do they got like underwater basket weaving or something else I can get into?
They got water polo. They got water polo. That counts.
Yeah, okay. Maybe water polo. But, this is just an interesting year. I think a lot more eyes are going to be on the Olympics. And we have a reason to watch because we have some forever Longhorns competing in this year's Olympics. And I'll now give Lacey Butler the floor to highlight those forever Longhorns and who we should be watching this summer in Paris.
Absolutely. So I always get super excited during the Olympic time because all we hear or all we have heard for so long as Texas fans is y'all are only good at Olympic sports. Well, it's our time to shine. Let's get it going. So, there are, from the research and everything that I did, the Texas Longhorns are absolutely showing out in the 2024 Paris Games. We've got 27 Longhorns across 7 sports competing in the 2024 Paris Olympics. That is an amazing, amazing feat. Obviously, winning the Directors' Cup 3 times in the past 4 years shows just how elite our athletes are. We are an elite athletic program, and I'm just excited for all these people, all these guys, women, ladies, everybody to go show out in Paris and everything. So let's just go ahead and get started. I want to kind of hit on, because a lot of people know about track and field. You got Tara Davis-Woodall, who's headed to her second Olympics, big time cowboy hat, boot wearing, horn throwing up girl. That is my girl. I love me some Tara Davis-Woodall. She is competing in the long jump in the track and field portion of the Olympics. You've also got, hold on, I've got like my whole, look, y'all, this is literally like how many Olympians we have going to Paris this season. It's something to all be really, really excited about. You got coaches, Kevin Durant, obviously, duh. You got Julia Grosso, who is competing, what?
I wasn't even, when you said 27, I never even thought about KD, but obviously KD, and I'm going to be watching them for sure. So yeah, you got to mention KD, obviously, right?
Obviously. You got Julia Grosso competing for Canada. And that's the cool thing is a lot of these athletes and everything aren't even competing for the US. You got athletes competing in Canada, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. You've got, who are some of the other ones? New Zealand. You've got Lulu Sun competing in women's tennis for New Zealand. You've got Angie Coe, who is competing in the 200 meter, one of the 200 meter races in the swimming and diving. Sorry, that like, let me reword that because that didn't make any sense. I'm just sitting here reading my notes and being like, huh. But you've got, let me see. Who do I want to say? Oh, you got Allison Gibson, who is part of the USA 3-meter springboard diving team. We have so many athletes to be able to watch. Casper Corbo competing for the Netherlands in swimming and diving. You got Ryan Krauser, who is competing in track and field. He's going for his 3rd Olympic title in the shot put. Yeah. there are a lot of multi-time Olympians. You got Akeelia Smith, who is she was the first Texas Longhorn to win the long jump and the triple jump in the NCAA championships, competing in Paris. She's going to be competing in the long jump. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have so many different athletes to be excited for. There's just a full list of different athletes and even coaches. You know, you got Royal Ivy, who is going to be coaching for the South Sudan basketball team. You know, like, you've got Max Scoggin, who is one of our swimming coaches, who is the USA assistant head coach. You know, so it's not even just athletes that are sitting here representing the University of Texas. You got coaching staffs. You got people on coaching staffs that are out there representing the university. So there are a lot of things to be excited for this 2024 Paris Olympics. And I can't wait for the Olympics just in general, but I'm so excited to see all of our Longhorns show out.
Yeah, no, that's just a great list that you provided. So many different opportunities, so many different sports, from, players participating, athletes participating, to coaches. And I thought that you made a really good point that Texas is global, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just players, or athletes representing Team USA, representing the Netherlands, right? Representing Sudan, representing all of these different countries that make up the world. And this is a global brand. I was in Vegas at the beginning of June, and I swear the college I saw most, I may be biased, but the college I saw most was the University of Texas, right? Like, they were repping, maybe people from Texas just rep, but like the college I saw most was the University of Texas. Yep. So in Vegas, right? I mean, like, it's the biggest brand, and I had my Ricky Williams shirt on, so I was contributing to that. But yeah, I mean, this is just the standard. This is why the standard for all of our athletic programs is as great as it is. This is why we've won three Directors Cups in the last 4 years, right? Because we just hold our athletic programs to a higher standard. And when you do that, you're going to be represented that well at the Olympics. 27 forever Longhorns representing the University of Texas this summer in Paris. Such a treat to watch, and we're going to enjoy watching it. Me and Lacey, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Obviously, it's July 4th weekend. Whatever you're celebrating this weekend, why ever you're celebrating this weekend, just make sure you're safe, right? Don't be too hot. All right, get you some cold
Drink
water.
Plenty of water, yeah. Plenty of water.
If you're out there at the pool parties, make sure you're actually getting in the pool and stay away from South Padre Island.
Wear some sunscreen. Oh my gosh, yes. Do not go to Padre.
Since I made that joke, let me come back and say that definitely prayers up to everybody that happened to. I don't want to make that joke and sound.
No, that's terrifying. That was crazy though.
Yeah. So, prayers up to everybody involved, with that for sure. But like I said, just be safe. You never know what can happen.
Everybody be safe.
Even if you're dipping your feet in the
sunscreen.
Water. Right.
Wear sunscreen. Don't shoot Roman candles at each other. I feel like that's pretty basic, but here we are.
Right. And remember that July 4th was yesterday, so you can put the fireworks away. All right. Hook 'em.
Please do. Hook 'em horns. What starts here changes the world.
Peace.